Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talking with Talamantes and Titus. This is April 15th, 2021, and this is the second to last installment of Talking with Talamantes and Titus. We do have a couple items for discussion tonight. We will go over the elections results. We originally invited the 109th president and VP-elect to go over their platforms and plans, and we're postponing that to next episode, so on April 29th at 4:30 p.m. Do be sure to tune in and hear from Hunter Swilling and Coulter Anderson, who are our president and VP-elects. President Talamantes is going to go over the AHW DEI Town Hall recap and some next steps that we have within AHW. And then we're also going to go over a legislation update. So first, I wanted to go over the elections results with you all in case you missed them earlier. This is also recorded and posted on our website. Starting off with the College of Ag and Natural Resources, we have Zane Cooper, Catherine Carrier, and Dylan Laverell as our senators. Moving on to the College of Arts and Sciences, we have Blessed, Autumn, Benjamin, Bridger, Hannah, Hazel, John, Madison, Noah, Riley, and Saber. Moving on to the College of Business, we have Brittany Stadler, Jacob Dawson, and Wyatt Eben. Moving on to the College of Education, we have myself, Jason Wilkins, and Michaela McGee. Moving on to the College of Engineering, we have Anthony Papas, Bastian Hansen, Jaden Harvey, and Julian Dawkins. College of Health Sciences, we have Callie Catlin, Haley Harris, Sierra Sanders, and Siyasha Pradyang. College of Law, we have Sterling Bowers. And finally, for the Hobbs School, we have Taya Labato. Referendum number 1 passed, as well as referendum number 2. And our president and vice president-elect for the 109th administration are Hunter Swilling and Coulter Anderson. We are so excited to work with the 109th administration as Riley and I were elected as senators. We're so honored that you all in the student body chose to elect us and to continue serving the student body within AHW. And we look forward to the year upcoming. Going over some upcoming important events for elections, the 109th inauguration is Monday, May 3rd at noon. We are having that in the Wyoming Union Family Room and on Zoom. I should say Zoom, not Zom. And then we'll have the Senate orientation for the Senate-elect candidates and the Pres VP candidates Tuesday, May 4th at 6 p.m. before the first Senate meeting, which is taking place at 7 p.m. on Zoom. We do hope that you'll tune into the inauguration and tune into the first Senate meeting and tell your upcoming administration what you would like to see. We'll move on to reports and communications, beginning with President Talamantes.
Thanks, Courtney. I kind of combined our debrief on the DEI town hall just with my communications. But I just wanted to go over with you all the town hall that ASUW had hosted last Wednesday with President Seidel. We had 7 wonderful student leaders coming and talking to us about just some issues they've seen on campus, what they would like to see in terms of change in diversity and inclusion. And I do just want to thank the following people for participating in the panel, because this, is something that's not always easy to do, but is definitely necessary in the work that we're doing. So I just want to thank Rachel Ratliff from our Non-Traditional Student Council and the Black Student Alliance, Laura Perez, our ASUW Director of Diversity, who is also heavily involved in student organization MECHA, Timberly Vogel from the Black Studies Center, Jackson Porterfield from the student organization, the Queer Community Coalition, and the Students for Sensible Drug Policy, Riley Scorse, also from the Queer Community Coalition, Catherine Tay from our United Multicultural Council, and Wolstar Duran from Keepers of the Fire. I am so grateful that these students took the time out of their night last week to come and talk with us and the president on some serious issues that were happening on campus. So over the course of the evening, we did ask these students 3 different questions that I have laid out here on the left. What has made you feel welcome and eager to come to school at UW? What do you believe is lacking in terms of DEI? What do you believe UW should be doing to improve campus climate? And overall, all of these questions sparked a really meaningful discussion among the group. And a lot of these answers are all kind of weaved into one another, but overall provided some great information on what President Seidel and his strategic planning group should be looking and thinking about, especially when they're making some long-term visionary plans for our university. And so I will detail a few of the answers for you all that has some reoccurring themes from the panelists. In the first question, many of them indicated that our resource centers have been huge in making students feel welcome. We have the Multicultural Resource Center, the Rainbow Resource Center, the Native American Education Research and Cultural Center, and the Veteran Student Center, which are all here to build out community on campus and give students the chance to meet with one another when they come to college. They also mentioned that identity-based organizations was huge in keeping them here, and also just supporting them as they're going through their college journey. And so it was nice to see what kind of things are working at UW and what we can continue supporting and advocating for. And so after that question, we had asked the second one. And so in response to the second and third one, there was definitely much to say. And I did just kind of group this together because a lot of these answers did weave into one another and really told us, what we should be working on as an organization in tandem with President Seidel on improving campus climate for marginalized students. So one big thing was just building out reporting lines. From my knowledge, we do have reporting lines at UW, but they're not advertised well, and they're not places where students, if there's an incident that happens on campus that makes them uncomfortable, they don't know that this is the place that they can go to report it. There's not really a lot of transparency either as to how frequently those reports get checked, who's handling them, how they reach out to the student, all those things. So really what we're going to try to do is build out some of those and make it known to students. And that's really what a lot of the panelists had identified. Secondly, they had talked a lot about hiring more diverse staff, which the panelists also recognized was a long-term process, but nonetheless, they really wanted to mention it frequently. Third is improving shared governance and communication lines at UW. Oftentimes, a lot of the things that these panelists had said, they have said in other spaces, but somehow it's not translated up to the top where the people are the ones making the decisions and identifying priorities on projects. And so improving communication between those groups was a really big thing that the panelists brought up. Fourth was building out more robust diversity training for students, faculty, and staff. One that's more genuine and meaningful instead of just, like a PowerPoint slide that everyone just clicks through when they're trying to, get registered or go to school at UW. There was also lots of concern about how we address these kinds of diversity trainings with students who don't really think that we have a problem with things like racism, misogyny, homophobia, or other really stark issues on campus. Those students obviously are not the ones who are attending the town hall and listening to our marginalized students. So our panelists really wanted to mention that to President Seidel because, we didn't really have an answer on how to address it. But I think it's important to mention that, especially when the university is thinking about how they can improve their diversity training for their students. A fifth thing that they mentioned was exploring more scholarships for underrepresented students instead of just the academic scholarship that everybody gets, but kind of give those students a little bit more support in that facet. Six was implementing a diversity credit requirement at UW, which UW is in the process of reevaluating their university studies program. Currently, we don't have a credit requirement for any kind of diversity or an inclusion class. And so I know that is something that ASUW is going to take up when we do sit on that committee later. And lastly was just translating resources for parents that speak a different language. That was brought up frequently just as a way to build a more inclusive environment, especially when students are trying to apply for school and they're asking help from their parents. And so all that is to say, a lot of these themes gave us some ideas for plans of action that us in ASUW can help implement and continue working with President Seidel and the Office of DEI on these things. And so I just have them listed out here on the right. Our first one is publishing an ASUW resolution that supports all of these students' demands. Chief of Legislative Affairs Swilling and Vice President Titus have been working on this resolution for quite some time. And so it will go up for debate next Tuesday in our Senate and a vote in the next 2 weeks. And so this is also a way that we can document these student demands, but more importantly, a lot of the demands that are a longer term process that multiple administrations will have to continue to advocate for. Second was building out reporting lines with the Dean of Students and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And from my knowledge, this is something that they are taking a look at, but is a very big task at hand. So myself and Courtney and our oncoming administration will be working on some of those things so that we can, at the very least, have some type of reporting lines by the end of this year. Third, working with academic affairs to build out communication and shared governance practices at UW. This is actually a project that Vice President Titus had worked with academic affairs on in the summer. And so some of these conversations are going to be picked up on just how we can build out better communication between various groups on campus. So people aren't saying the same thing twice and that things actually get done. Yes, I'm on the fourth one. Touch base with the AVP of Enrollment Management, Kyle Moore, to discuss translating just some important admissions documents, even just the application, some of the financial aid information, so that way it can be a little bit more accessible to students that live in a two-language household. And lastly, work with the Office of DEI on building out diversity trainings and that credit requirement. So yes, that's a big mouthful of information from the town hall, but overall, I'm very glad that myself and Vice President Titus were able to organize this event to not only give these students a platform to speak with President Seidel, but actually get a lot of these things moving forward.
Thank you, Riley, for going over that. The town hall definitely was exciting. And if you all are interested in seeing it in person or with your own eyes, we do have it up at our YouTube channel, which is linked on our website and on our social media. So I did just want to give you all a legislation update. Senate has been fairly busy over the past couple weeks. We have passed a couple constitutional amendments, which did pass in the referendum vote in the elections that I mentioned earlier. We also suspended Aztec operations on April 26th to remember Julian Abbas, who was the former Aztec coordinator who passed away about a year ago. And then we also passed a resolution in support of all gender restroom expansion across campus. And we also wrote some internal working document edits in response to some judicial council requests for interpretation that we received. So that just about concludes talking with Talamantes and Titus for this week. Thank you all for tuning in. As I mentioned, this is our second to last installment, and we will have the president and vice president-elect at our next episode on April 29th at 4:30 p.m. So be sure to tune in on Zoom or on Facebook. Submit your questions in the meantime for what you would like to hear from your president and vice president upcoming for the next year. And as always, stay in touch, and HW is working for you.